Chapter 12. The doors opened like they would in a film. The noise exactly the same. The weight of the doors felt on the curvature of his ears. A cold presence ran up his spine. The first thing that hit him was warmth, something he had not expected. And the warm light leaking from the room engulfed him, and standing amongst the warmth of the room and warm light was an old man to be aged around 80. He was quite tall and had a strong build about him. His grey beard extended to the collarbone. His eyes told the story of experience, and so did his expression. Wearing clothes with rabbit insignias, Takahashi noticed a rabbit, but no ordinary rabbit. Its colour was the purest red, with white eyes, a reverse albino effect. Takahashi, welcome. My name is Francis. I am the king of this kingdom. How was the journey? Takahashi's attention laid still with the red rabbit now on the man's shoulders. Fascinating creatures, aren't they? Asked King Francis. Finally looking up, Takahashi responded, Ah, yes, sorry. Do not fret. I apologize that your life has been disrupted in such a way, but you have been chosen to partake in a trial that perhaps could make you the next king of this kingdom. Chosen? Replied Takahashi, confused. Yes. It could have been for a couple of seconds, but you had a connection to the moon. I couldn't look away, Takahashi responded, with eyes of thought gazing at the polished wooden floor. Yes, that is the feeling. I'm surprised you have not immediately questioned it. Most people do. It sounds ludicrous to have a connection to the moon, right? Asked King Francis. Japanese people often believe in things that most do not, as do other cultures. Do not let me deceive you, King Francis. I am unable to fully process this moment, replied Takahashi. And there is one last thing you have to do if you pass such trials, King Francis said, giving pause before finishing with, You must marry my daughter. The word marry hit Takahashi like a jolt of a nerve. It was extremely painful, and with that idea, the last wheeze of his wife's lifeless body blew quietly into his ear. Trying his best to regain himself, Francis could see the sharp pain in his eyes. A concept difficult for some, I understand, Takahashi, but I assure you this world is different. Love is different, and most importantly, trust and loyalty are compelling here. An oath has a definition that cannot be defied by anything but time, and even so, you will be the one to break it when you become my age and have to find a new king. My wife will never marry or take another man after my passing. Don't you think that kind of loyalty is too far? Will she be happy without me? Will companionship be something she longs for? I wish I could reward her loyalty with more time, but instead I am bound to leave her whether she wants it or not. And that is the saddest thing about this dimension or world that I cannot comprehend. Is humanity that toxic that it must be replaced every 80 to 100 years? Is happiness or contentment a limited factor only to earthlings? The mind of a human will always struggle, Takahashi. I think acceptance is the only way forward. If you become king, whether I am alive to see it or not, my daughter would and could never betray you in any capacity. Rabations are not bound by their lust, or their destructive behaviors. Takahashi watched the king as he spoke, and saw a reflection of sadness he had not seen before. Similar to the face he had once his wife had passed, it was an expression of helplessness and an acceptance to fate. But the king's fate sounded much worse, as death was an end. Prison was just a continuation of a destructive mind unwinding and twisting, staying stagnant with the regret of the past. Death did offer the end of regret, but it also offered the end to atonement. Takahashi stood in silence and pondered the idea of a future with marriage and a crown on his head. A thought that never crossed his mind, but the fantasy of a woman that did not betray him was one that could easily blindside him, as he desired it more than anything. King Francis saw the thoughts racing through Takahashi's mind, and with a soft hand on his shoulder, he nodded silently and gestured one of the guards to send him to his room to ponder. Takahashi walked, watching the guards' backs. They led him up some stairs to another hallway, accompanied by an ending darkness. The guards opened yet another wooden door for him, and inside was a room as basic and as normal as Takahashi could imagine. Inside was a bed, bookshelf, table and chairs, a carpet, a small bin, and a large glass window. Upon closer inspection, everything had beautiful craftsmanship. Detail upon detail. There was love in this furniture, like it was an art. The guard shut the door, and Takahashi just spent time not thinking, but inspecting everything, almost like he had never seen it before. Methods of which wood would join each other without the use of glue was used in their craft. With wooden pellet-like objects joining wooden pieces together, it was a superb way of crafting wood without using chemicals. The last thing Takahashi inspected was the window. The glass was etched in such a way that the vibrations of which he felt like troubled him no more did not break the glass. It was almost as if the creator had given the vibrations a face of description, as it would hit the glass as a person would hit very clean glass by accident, causing shake but no cracks of damage. Looking past the etching, Takahashi's eyes were drawn to the sky once more. The colours themselves taking hold of the sky seemed in thought. Carefully separated, they drifted with a soft demeanour, carefully sharing the space with individual colours. Elementary colours made secondary colours in a slow combining process, which in a reflective sense told Takahashi to take his time. The thought of the night was that the sky was dark, and ideally eyes would be falling asleep to the tiredness of the day. But night never seemed to come for Takahashi. Instead, the sky and the dark expanse of space behind it remained a constant. Leaving the time to sleep to his body, he just laid on the bed until his eyes finally closed. Opening them to the noise of mumbled chatter, he woke up similar to how he would in prison. Doing some small stretches and checking his face in the mirror, he gave himself some encouragement for the day. And as he slapped his cheeks for good measure, his room door opened, and pouring in were rabbits of all different colours and sizes. Stepping back, they swarmed him in fluffy softness. Feeling no desire to fight free, Takahashi closed his eyes, and once he reopened them, he found himself laying down on his back, riding a wave of rabbits. Carrying him up and up the large flight of stairs, the amount of rabbits and stairs became more narrower until they reached what seemed to be the top of the palace tower. Similar to that of a lighthouse, but encompassing a much larger area for the top floor. The hallways that plagued the palace floors did not plague this floor. It was an empty space of nothing but wood floors and walls, and one single door as normal as any other. Standing in front of the door was King Francis. "Apologies, but the rabbits insisted on picking you up, literally," said King Francis. Getting back onto his feet, watching his steps for rabbit paws, Takahashi threw a quick and sharp smile to the king. "This place truly has a magic to it," Takahashi replied. "Indeed it does. I think you know why I'm here, Takahashi, so I will get to the point. Will you take part in this trial?" "Will anything happen to me if I fail?" asked Takahashi in return. "I do not know the answer despite doing it myself," King Francis answered with a small shrug. Takahashi held out his right hand. "I will take part." King Francis shook his hand, and both men gave each other a short but true smile. "Thank you," said King Francis, gesturing him then to the wooden door behind him. Takahashi stood in front of it, and the king turned the doorknob and revealed a room. "Good luck," said King Francis, as Takahashi took small steps into the room. The door behind him closing, Takahashi felt a presence in the room with him. The room was entirely of wood, and in the centre a single doorway, with no frame connected to a wall or any object for that matter. The door matched that of the sky in vibrancy of colour, but shimmering as skin of a snake. Its large, omnipresent noises filling the room, it gave an impression that held a sign of life. The keyhole crafted into it was abnormally large. Large enough, in fact, for Takahashi to walk through it. Looking around the room, his only choice of movement was to the door. There was nothing else. Its noises buzzed and haunted his ears in an anthem similar to the idea of tortured souls in the pit of Tartarus. There was no denying that this ominous door floating in the centre of the room was intimidating and struck a fear in Takahashi that poised his eyes, gazed at the door, and froze his knees pointing in different directions. Lacking ambition to move closer to the door, he was paused waiting for a moment to break his emotional and physical lock holding him still. Vibrations in the air seemed not only to balance this dimension, it broke tension and the undeniable fear Takahashi was seen to be trapped in. The vibrations in the air first struck his eyes, causing him to blink profusely. It then struck his neck, palpitating his breathing. Then the crevice from behind his knees caused him to fall to his knees, and the shock from the wood hitting his legs seemed to have broke him free from the bounds of effects this door had on him. His gaze was now frozen to the floor. His thoughts apparent. The movement in his arms and legs were now free. Lip-syncing a thank you to the vibrations which seemed to have softened, he took a moment to align himself. The door, it seemed, was the first challenge. The answer ever so obvious, yet so unclear. The door represented the first step to his journey. Many would be asking why the door was so full of life, why it was so haunting and held an aura of torment. It was the countless times of unravelling minds, the failed screams of those unable to move forward, the shimmering colour of emotions unable to intertwine, to match new thoughts, to determine a future, to allow a future, scared and bound by confines of comfort. The past was the omnipresent future, and the future was entirely inconceivable without the movement of the present. The door required no real key, despite the fact it actually had one. So initially, Takahashi waited for someone or something to open the door for him. A test of patience, perhaps. The answer was indeed obvious, as not too long after he decided to wait for a key, his answers eventually led towards himself being the key. The door was the unknown, the future clear with what King Francis had told him, but at the same time the future remained unclear as what was inside this door. If anything, it would soon prove to be, or potentially be, the toughest challenge yet.